Greetings, fine folk of the internet. Welcome to or back to Oh My Bookishness. If you hear my cat screaming, ignore it because I have tried to start this video 6 times now and she starts screaming every time. So if you hear meowing that sounds like it's in agony, just ignore it. She's not actually in agony, she just likes to scream. With that out of the way, let's get into today's video. So, every winter, about this time in February, I start to get really excited for the Renaissance Festival, or Renaissance Fair, or whatever you're used to calling it. My local Renaissance Festival isn't until May, so we're a few months out yet, but I kind of try to embrace the Renaissance Fair feelings throughout the year, so it's okay if we get excited about it a little bit early. To help you get as excited as I am about the Renaissance Fair, I've put together a list of 10-ish books that give off strong Ren Fair vibes, and we can look at those together and get excited about the Renaissance Festival. But before we do that, as always, let me tell you about the book I'm currently reading. I am currently reading Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston. This is a middle grade book that is a fantasy, but it's like a modern day fantasy, so it's not like a high fantasy, basically. It kind of reminds me of Harry Potter mixed with like Spy Kids. Basically, Amari, her brother has gone missing after he started working for a mysterious agency that she doesn't know anything about. And then all of a sudden she gets recruited to this agency at her brother's recommendation from before he went missing. And so it takes place over the summer, and turns out that this agency is, I believe it's the Bureau of Supernatural Investigations or something like that. Basically, they investigate all of the magical creatures in the world, and they kind of keep things in check with the magical creatures so that humans don't find out about them. And Amari is in this program mostly to find out what she can about her brother. When she finds out something very surprising about herself, and I won't say too much because it's a spoiler, but so far I'm about that far, you know how far into it, and I am enjoying it very, very much. I'm reading it for 2 different book clubs. Super excited to talk about it with people at those book clubs. So yes, enjoying this very much. Okay, so now on to the Ren Fair-esque books. The first one that I'm going to talk about is a favorite from my childhood, Dealing with Dragons by Patricia C. Reed. This book is about a princess who is tired of being a princess and whose parents are trying to basically sell her off in an arranged marriage, and she doesn't really want that. So she decides the best way to get out of it is to run away to a dragon, because if a princess is kidnapped by a dragon, then, you know, she doesn't have to get married. So she runs off to this dragon, and she becomes the dragon's like housekeeper, basically, kind of cooks and cleans, and the dragon starts to really like her and agrees to keep her there as long as she's cooking and cleaning and stuff like that. And the princess really likes it with the dragons too, and starts to make friends with the dragons, and I believe there's another princess who she meets as well who's also working for the dragons but who wants to be saved by a knight. So this princess, our main girl, whose name I have never known how to pronounce and I won't botch it now, she sends the knights who keep trying to save her to her friend, and there's also wizards and all sorts of fun magical creatures. It's so chaotic and magical, and which is very much the Ren Fair to me. It's chaotic and it's magical, and you never know what you might see there. There might be wizards, there might be dragons, there's gonna be good food. Princesses are involved, knights are there. Very good. There's a whole series called The Enchanted Forest Chronicles, which I highly recommend. Okay, and then we can't talk about Renaissance or medieval eras without talking about Redwall. Now, you've probably heard of Redwall before, and if you haven't, look into it, okay? It's great. You'll love it. Redwall is a series of books. Gonna move that out of shot. Redwall is a series of books about Redwall Abbey, which is not a church necessarily, because I don't think the creatures in this have religion, but kind of that. It's kind of a church. It's kind of like a convent, but, or like a monastery. It's an abbey where a bunch of woodland creatures like mice and rabbits and hedgehogs and moles all live, and they're trying to have a peaceful life. They're trying to enjoy their gardening and their fishing and their singing and storytelling. They're trying to live their super peaceful, super cozy life. And in this first book here, rats invade. Gosh dang it, rats. They're trying to have a cozy life. And the rats, the ocean sea rats come in. Clooney the Scourge is the main big bad rat in this story. Clooney the Scourge decides that he wants Redwall Abbey for his own castle fortress. And so begins a summer-long siege between the rats and the Redwallers. And this series, there's so many of them. It's like 17 books long, I think. The author has died like several years ago, so there's no new ones coming out, but I think it's like 17 books long. There's a cartoon, which I highly recommend. It's currently free to watch on Tubi. Love the cartoon. Prepare yourself for season 3, which is based off of the book called Martin the Warrior. The first book is based off of Redwall. The second one is first season is based off of Redwall. Second season is based off of the sequel to Redwall, which is called Madame Mayo. The third book is based off of one of the prequels to Redwall, which is Martin the Warrior. And all 3 seasons are great. The third one will break your heart into a million pieces though, so prepare yourself for that if you do watch it. The third book I'm going to recommend to you is The Hero's Guide to Saving Your Kingdom, which I haven't read in a while, but it's so fun. It's a children middle grade comedy fantasy, and it stars Prince Charming and Prince Charming and Prince Charming and Prince Charming. So we have 4 different Prince Charmings. We've got Liam, who is the Prince Charming from Sleeping Beauty story. I believe his name is Gustav, who is the Prince Charming of the Rapunzel story. Hi, Eleanor. We have, I want to say, Frederick, maybe, who's the Prince of the Cinderella story. And Duncan? I feel like his name is Duncan, who is Snow White's prince. And these princes are having problems with their happily ever after, and now there's a threat to their kingdoms, and they all have to work together to save the day. And it's so funny. It's a very fun series, and it is, let me find a good one. It's illustrated as well. Let's see here. It's got some nice illustrations as well. Super fun series. I haven't finished the actual series yet. I read the first 2 and then just haven't read the third one, but I will at some point because it's so cute and fun. Then we're going to talk about Catherine Called Birdie, which you may have heard of recently because a movie just came out on Amazon Prime, and the movie is really good. I do recommend the movie. It's not exactly like the book. I think I like it. I like the ending better than I like the book ending, actually. I will warn you that if you're squeamish about Eleanor's sprinting around the house currently. I will warn you if you're squeamish about menstruation, like periods and things. Hi, Eleanor. The movie is maybe not for you. Probably not the book either, because it's a diary. Hi, Eleanor. Hi. It's a diary of a medieval teen named Catherine who goes by Birdie because she has a lot of pet birds. And her struggles as her father is trying to set her up with a suitor who is, most of them are ancient old men who she doesn't want to marry. But this one is, very, I don't know how accurate it is because I'm not a historian, but it gives you the medieval accuracy vibes, which maybe not exactly Ren Fair, but it sets you in that headspace. All right, then we're gonna go with the OG medieval man himself, Robin Hood. Not this copy, I believe this this version was written in the 1800s by Howard Pyle. But Robin Hood, if you know Robin Hood, you know it's, you know, the epitome of medieval storytelling and fun adventures in the woods. You never know what shenanigans they're gonna get up to. Some Ren Fairs are even based around the story of Robin Hood. I believe there's one called Sherwood Ren Fair, and Sherwood Forest is where Robin Hood lives. I don't remember where that one is, where that Renaissance Fair is, but I think it's called like the Sherwood Ren Fair or something. But yeah, based off of the Robin Hood story, so they have characters walking around who are supposed to be characters from Robin Hood, and there's like a story going on there as well. And so Robin Hood, highly recommend this version by Howard Pyle. It's very funny and sometimes sad. Next, we're going to talk about Bravely by Maggie Stiefvater. If you watch Disney and Pixar movies, you probably recognize our heroine here. It is Merida of Dunbrock. This is a sequel to the Pixar movie Brave, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. And it's kind of a YA, sequel, YA sequel to the movie. It takes place, I think, like 4 years after the movie, and Merida has just been traveling. She comes back at Christmas time to Castle Dunbrock, and then she finds this god of ruin who is about to ruin her life, literally. He's going to, he also kind of calls himself like the god of change. So if things are getting too stagnant, then it's his job to change them, usually via ruination. So she makes a bargain with him because obviously she doesn't want to see her family and castle and people brought to ruin. So she makes a deal with him that if she can change everyone in the course of a year, then he won't ruin Dunbrock. And so begins this this story. It's an adventure where Merida is trying to get all of her family to kind of see that they've stagnated in their ways. They aren't changing, nothing new is happening, and that's not good because things are starting to fall apart and it's not good. This book is great because it's got medieval stuff in it, but it's also not focusing on like the gross medieval things. It focuses more on, oh, hey, the seasons are changing, and look at, oh, we wear these clothes in the castle. How would we prepare the castle for defense? What foods are we eating? And it goes into great detail about food. The first chapter has like a whole paragraph describing how wonderful the bread she's eating is, which is great. I love bread. Slight disclaimer for fans of the movie Brave, and this is a spoiler. So I'm gonna hold up my hand, and when I put my hand down, that's the end of the spoiler, okay? Merida has a romance in this, which I'm not fond of personally, because that's one thing that I liked about the movie is that she doesn't fall in love. So I'm kind of annoyed because it doesn't happen until the very end of this book. And it just, I don't know. There's a romance. So I'll warn you that I love this book, but I hate that she falls in love in it. I'm gonna say that. So yeah, end of spoiler. Next we have My Fair Lady by Laura Wedderston. I used to know that. It has since slipped my mind. This one is not like the others I'm recommending. It is not a fantasy, and it is not set in medieval times. It is set in modern day at a Renaissance festival. The main character, Rowena, is getting a job for the summer, and she happens to get a job at the Renaissance festival. And there's romance. She spends time, you know, working, I think, at the face painting booth for the Renaissance festival. She makes friends. There's jousting. All of the Ren Fair vibes that you love are in this book, along with kind of cheesy romance, but you know, it's fine, it's whatever. Very much a YA book, very contemporary romance trope filled, kind of cliche, but it's enjoyable. And I think the Renaissance Festival vibes are they're really strong because it's the whole thing it's about. And I keep using the words vibes, and I told myself I'd only use it once in this video, and I've already used it like 10 times, but whatever. Again, not a huge fan of the romance in it, but it's whatever. The actual Renaissance Fair setting in this is worth the kind of lousy romance. Okay, so next I'm more recommending an author, but the author's first series in their universe of series, and that is the Alana, I think it's Alana Song of the Lioness books. I've got all 4 of them here. Here's the second one, because I didn't want to just show you the first one because it looks like a horse girl book. Nothing wrong with that. It's just not the genre we're going for. There's the second one. And the third one, that's more what we're looking at, the genre. And then there we go. Look at that cover. Beautiful. I also have one of the original covers for the first book, and that kind of gives you more of that's the vibe that the series brings to the table. But if you haven't heard of the series before, basically it kind of covers the whole adolescence of our main character, Alana. She wants to be a knight in their medieval themed high fantasy world. She wants to be a knight, but only boys are allowed to become knights, of course. So she trades places with her twin brother, and her twin brother, I believe, goes to learn magic, and she goes in disguise as a young man named Alan. She goes to the castle to become a page and then a knight, and she makes friends with all the guys there. They go on all kinds of adventures. She makes friends with the prince, and I won't say too much, but throughout the series, she becomes a knight, and it's great. And I really like this series. I like the whole world that Tamora Pierce has created. Some of her other series I'm not as fond of. The first one that I ever read of hers was the Protector of the Small series, I think is what it's called, which is about years after Alana becomes a knight, another girl wants to become a knight, and she goes not in disguise as a boy, and it's about her. That's the first series that I ever read, and I read that probably when I was too young to, and they were talking about menstruation and possible sexual interactions, and I was a very sheltered homeschool kid, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? Oh, take it away from me. I had a bad impression of the Tamora Pierce books at first, but when I was a bit older, I read these and really enjoyed them. And then I read her, I believe it's called the Immortals series, which the main character in that is a girl who can talk to animals. I did not like that one as much. It was entertaining, but the romance is kind of gross because she falls in love with her magic mentor, who's like 10 years older than her, which is fine. But she starts the book as like a kid, like a young kid, so it's just kind of ick. Not a fan of that one as much. This one's better. Still kind of weird romances, but it's better. Okay, and then Katura and Lord Death. Who was this one by? Martine Levitt. This is one that I read not too long ago. It is about a girl named Katura in a medieval or Renaissance era village, and she is like a storyteller amongst her village, and she's known for telling good stories. One day she kind of wanders out into the woods and gets lost, hopelessly lost, and bug-bitten, sick, hungry, thirsty, sits down, and then this man who's wearing a dark cloak, riding a dark horse, comes up, and he's like, all right, I'm Death, you're dead, let's get the paperwork started. No, he's like, okay, you're dead, sorry. And she goes, I can't remember the exact terms of the bargain that she strikes with him, but I know she, very much like Sherazade, starts telling him a story, And then she doesn't tell him the ending. And he's like, well, no, I want to know what the ending is. And she goes, well, sorry, you know, I'm dying, so can't tell you the ending of the story. And so he gives her more time. And she goes back to her village, and he tells her, oh, well, your whole village is going to be wiped out soon. Anyways, you should be glad that you're just dying peacefully because there's a plague coming. And so the story is about her trying to save her village from this plague and falling in love with death. But it's cuter than you think. The romance is cuter than you think it's going to be. It's not bad, I promise. But again, you know, she has this whole village, and they have festivals and like bonfires, and there's a lord of the village. Kind of gives you that small village festival interactions that the Renaissance Fair always reminds me of, or this reminds me of the Renaissance Fair. I'm doing a really bad job of explaining how these all connect to the Renaissance Fair, so I apologize. I hope you understand what I'm saying in getting the general vibes of the books and how they connect to the Renaissance Festival. I apologize if not. All right, last but certainly not least, we have Under the Earth, Over the Sky by Emily McCosh, I believe is how you pronounce the last name. I don't know that for sure though. Look at this cover. Bask in this cover for a moment with me, and then bask in the undercover with me. Look at that. Gorgeous. Fabulous. Also, it has some illustrations and it has a map. It also has a table of contents. It is a story told in seasons, which Bravely also is, but very different vibes. It's a story told in seasons, and each season there's a different opening illustration for that season, and they're all very lovely. The story itself is about this magical fae king. He's ancient, he's thousands of years old, and he is checking out the border of his kingdom kind of near the human world, and he finds these people who are hunting a bad guy, these humans who are like, hey, look, we're not trying to, you know, encroach on your space, but there's this man who kind of dragged this woman out of town. I can't remember if it's his wife or not, and they're like, we're pretty sure he killed her. We're trying to find him. And so the Fae King finds this bad guy. The woman is dead. Sorry, minor spoiler. But then there's a baby as well, and the baby is alive but sickly. And so the Fae King gets attached to this baby and adopts this baby and takes care of this baby and forms a father-son relationship with this baby. And it's very sweet. That's not the main part of the book that I actually like. I felt like the father-son relationship could have been done a little bit better, or the baby raising could have been incorporated more, because the baby is kind of like magically perfect, which is whatever, no diaper changing, I guess. But the part that I really liked about this was all of the seasonal descriptions and the nature descriptions and the descriptions of the different types of fae was really cool, which at the Renaissance Festival, you see people dressed up as different kinds of fae. You see people outside in nature. Different Renaissance festivals take place at different seasons of the year. Mine is in the late spring, early summer, and then they have another one in the fall. But some are like all summer long, some are in the fall exclusively. I've even heard of there being winter ones. So, you know, it kind of reminds me of that. And the magicalness of it. Also set in medieval times, as far as I can tell. There's not any technology in it. This is also a really good, I feel like, fireside read book. Like, it's so lyrical and enchanting that you aren't completely absorbed in the story, which sounds like a bad thing, but it's kind of one of those books where you can take in the ambiance around you and feel like it's like a book that you're reading as a book, You know? You know how you always see like cozy pictures of characters reading books and just like curled up by the fire or whatever? This is the book that they would be reading, I feel like. It's an adventure, a soft adventure with low stakes, some creepy creatures, and then good creatures and a baby. All right, well this went much longer than I was expecting it to, and I'm gonna have a heck of a time editing it, but we'll make do. Thank you so much for watching. Tell me in the comments about your local Renaissance festival if you've been to one, or if you would like to go to one, or if you have questions about them, if you think I should do more Renaissance Fair related content, because I'd be happy to, clearly. And yeah, I don't know how to end a video, so bye!